Hi guys, it's me, Kathy, Mrs. Handy Are You? I'm coming to you from chilly New Hampshire, so we're in long sleeves today. I hope you guys are doing well and you're not freezing. Most of you probably are not freezing like me. But I thought I'd start off with a post on Telegram that I missed from George News, and I hope you guys are following George News and you guys know who it is. He had on September 17th, in all capitals, all caps, "It's time to get the band back together again." And usually he posts, news articles and things like that, things that POTUS statements. So if you're ever looking for what President Trump is saying for the day, he posts that every time. Anyway, this was a big deal that he posted this. So you look at the all caps. You can do phrases, as you guys know. You don't need to just look at things in all caps. You could just do a phrase. You can pick all caps from, say, POTUS statements or a news article. You can do it that way to do gematria. And I always forget to say what I'm doing. A is 1 all the way through Z is 26. And it's biblical decoding. I use simple gematria. And I usually use gematrix.org, starts with a G. And if you have numbers involved, Roman numerals, look at Gematrinator calculator, and it will figure out the numbers for you. And then I usually go back and look at gematrix.org because they have more matches, so you can figure out what it is God's trying to tell you in this, statement, phrases, letter, newspaper article, whatever it is. So anyway, I've already lost track of what it is. Okay, it's time to get the band back together again. What do you think the band is? I'm sure you guys have ideas. These are the matches for that. It equals 363, and that equals magnificent 888. There's 3 involved in this. You know how I'm always talking about twins and all that? Well, it's not just twins because President Trump is involved. So there's 3. Magnificent 888 groom is named. That's the proper way to say it. Equals 363. I am the son who is one with the Father. Equals 363. Secret Life of the American Full Episodes. 363. I think that's really funny. Most interesting man in the world. 363. Does he ever sleep? He must be exhausted. Equals 363. Negative 48 is always up all hours of the day, night, morning, evening, always there. So if you're not listening to him, check him out on his Telegram channel, which is negative 48 channel. If you look for negative 48 chat, that's what you'll find. You'll find chat where you're typing in questions and answers or whatever it is you want to do. But negative 48 channel is where you can find out if you can join in the chat, if they're having a chat at that time. They're not always chatting. That would be exhausting, to be chatting 24 hours. So up in the right corner of the screen, you'll see join if they're talking. So if they're talking, you hit join and, jump in and get in the conversation, Next one is that matches 363 is extinction level event from comet equals 363. I'm always talking about the white hat FFs that will happen over a short or a long period of time. Like I said, I don't know, from all my decoding, I still don't know over what period of time that might be. Expose all honesty about, expose all honesty about religion, 363. A whole new group of house guests is 363. So that could be our undead stars and friends that we see on the Cluso videos, and people that we're following, like Junior and all those guys. I'm wondering if it's also after that all happens, if it's our relatives. Like, I've really thought that, like, you know, I've made my garden pretty because I'm thinking my grandmother will come back, and I want my garden to be pretty because she was a really big gardener. You know, she was like, wrote for magazines and all that. So anyway, I know you probably think I'm nuts, but that's how I think. So that's it with the George post. I mean, look at all the George posts. I would definitely look at all the George news posts on Telegram. He's not on Twitter, obviously, like most of us. The big thing I want to talk about really on the video here is Juan was just on last night, wasn't it? Yeah, today's the 30th. Today's September 30th. He was on the 29th. And I caught him live on David Nino Rodriguez. And yeah, what I started with is I jotted down some of his phrasing that he was saying, because everything he says, just like with negative 48, just like with POTUS, you could decode every single word they say, and you really can't do that at this point with the way our brains are right now. You know, we just can't do that yet. But you know, I decided to pick out which phrases in the beginning. That's what I did, which phrases I wanted to decode. So he said, America is a big country. Oh, first of all, oh, this is even bigger. He said, he's talking to David. He said, Red October will feel worse every day. So that's tomorrow. Red October is tomorrow. You know, last year, Red October we saw POTUS 35, JFK was in a lot, I should say, of President Trump's rallies. He was there in different ages. I don't know if you know that, but he was there old, he was there young, all last October, so 2020. So that was the Red October for 2020. This Red October is more like not good, you know. I mean, that was exciting last year, but this is going to be a big deal. Things are coming to a big head, and just know that we're going to be okay. Don't get freaked out. Everything's going to be okay, but it might get a little stressful, especially for relatives who don't know what's going on. And we're there to be their comfort. You know, they might not listen to us right off the bat, even this October, but we're there to help them be steady and not go off the deep end too much. You know, we do the best we can. So anyway, yeah, Juan said it's not the end of the world, but we've had the last 1.5 years to get ready. And that's true. We've known stuff's going to happen for a long time. So we're there and we're ready to help other people, you know, and it's not going to be like, gosh, people are going to starve and whatever, you know, it's not going to be like that. It'll just be more like a major inconvenience. That's more like what's going to happen. So I decoded America is a big country. That's 213. That equals Judgment Day is coming. Resurrected Christ is 213. June 23 is 213. The date they found Junior's body that was really a mannequin with a hole in the top of its head in the bay. Rising from the Ashes, 213. National Popcorn Day is 213. So with a day like National Popcorn Day, matching that, we can't get too upset, right? So Juan said this one might get called back. He's talking about the E that happened 11/3 last year. This one might get called back as 233. The Lord Jesus Christ is 233. John Fitzgerald Kennedy is 233. See how I say that everything he says and other people say is coded? All coding. Follow the White Rabbit, 233. Timing is everything, 233. Then he mentions biological weapon. And he was talking about the CV, the illness. You know, that's the context. He said biological weapon. But with the white hat FFs that will happen, like I mentioned earlier, it will probably look like there's a biological weapon, like maybe the food is poisoned or something. And the reason I'm talking about this is so you don't get upset. You know, I've gotten this for a very long time that these things will happen. So it's just one of those things. We got to get through it and we're going to be fine. So we'll be fine. So biological weapon is 157. It equals Rh negative blood, which makes one think of negative 48. Negative energy, again with negative 48, 233. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought that one up yet. Durham report is 157. The stage is set, 157. Economy big crash is 157. Now, you know, in October, the cabal always had the economy crash, in quotes. And it was usually on a Monday, you know. I'm not sure if it'll happen on a Monday, but all I want you to do is be ready mentally, because it won't stay like that. It won't stay like that. It's not permanent. We're not going down the tubes. Everything's going to be fine. And we have control over this stuff. We have control over the media, the stock market, everything. So it doesn't sound like we do, but we do. You know, yeah, we do. Let's see, Silver Bullet, 157. Donald Trump's plural, 157. Father Jupiter, because I think all our relatives are Pleiadian. I'm probably saying that wrong because I never know how to say it. Pleiadian, 157. And that's where the Pleiadians are from. I'm just going to say it, Pleiadians. And then one said, hanging by their fingernails. Now, a while back I took that as literal because Prime Minister talked about, he had a vision, and it was, I think it was from a helicopter, and POTUS was on the helicopter, and all these people like senators, congressmen, people like that, that were evil, were being told to, I don't know if it was being jump out of the helicopter or pushed, but they were hanging by their fingernails. And I 100% believe that he had that vision. And negative 48 goes on Prime Minister's Telegram, which is Prime Minister, PRYM, and it's drippiest drip 17. So hanging by their fingernails is 261. John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. is 261. Russia, Russia, Russia is 261, which means every time POTUS said, oh, Russia, 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 that's what he was saying. He was saying John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. November 22nd, the date of the leaving the Earth plane for JFK, is 261. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy is 261. The 1,000-year plan is 261. National Security Agency is 261. The lion is soon to roar is 261. And this is an awesome one. This is why you are here, 261. This is why you are here. This is why I am here. It's for this. One said, just a football game, because some people look at it as, you know, oh, the Republicans, the Democrats, it's like a football game going back and forth, and at the end somebody wins and like whatever. So he said that, and it equals 180. Jesus in the flesh, 180. Wake Up, God is Alive, 180. Dead in Christ event is 180. I'm thinking it's probably one day, possibly the one of the, what is it called in Florida? Sorry. The history tour. 2 nights and two times in Florida, like 2 weekends. And you can look it up on BillO'Reilly.com because POTUS will be with Bill O'Reilly. So 2 different weekends in Florida and 2 different weekends in Texas, ending in Dallas. So I'm thinking it could be the second weekend in Florida. But that's just me, you know. That's just for my decoding of where it's going to be, the date, all that stuff, which I have on, I think, in another video. Yeah. Near-death experience, which Juan was talking about through this whole conversation, like an NDE, near-death experience is 180. You have been deceived is 180. And that's what I'm thinking is the FFs with the white hats. It's going to look like the world is ending. And it's just to bring people to call out to God. Blackout Tuesday, 180. This is war. Oh, I'm sorry. I always do that. I go like right from one to another because I scribble. Okay, this is war. He said that's what I was decoding. This is war is 126. Juan of Savin is 126. I am God, December, DEC 7, 126. All eyes on me, 126. Which means I think we're going to see him at one of these the history tour events. Todd Burgun, it's TODD BURGUN, and that equals 126. And he called during the plane crash, and supposedly Junior and everybody was on board. And there was a woman named Susan Warnick. Not that it matters who it was, but anyway, Susan Warnick, because I was watching it when it happened, Channel 5 out of Boston. And he called as Todd Burgun from the Coast Guard as the representative to talk to the news people, but it was Junior. He disguised his voice and everything. He's on the phone. And he's talking about his own plane crash in quotes. Okay, another one that's interesting that I keep coming across is earthquakes, 126. That's part of the White Hat FFs. Catastrophe, 126. USA blackout is 126. And poison death is 126. And like you probably heard me say before, it's going to look like POTUS has died from poisoning and he won't be gone. So don't worry about that. Let's see, chemical warfare is 126. Notice how he said that so happily. Gamma radiation is 126. Kill switch is 126. So that all goes back to the White Hat FFs. It's going to look like we're in a war. But we won't be. It'll be all fake. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, I got it. Scribbles. So the team that did the favorite and on posts, our number 17 posts that stopped December 5th last year, 2020, they're the ones who are running the John McAfee Telegram page. And I highly suggest you guys subscribe to that because it sounds like it's going to be shut down for new subscribers. I think you'll still be able to read it, but you won't be able to do much more than that. Maybe you won't be able to share it. I'm not sure what they mean by, subscribe now. But things are going to change with that channel. So subscribe to it so that you can still, although I've been unsubscribed to it a couple of times, I think, and I had to resubscribe. but he's the one that, well, they are the ones that are dropping the information. He's put his own videos on it that I'm sure they've helped him do, which explains kind of what's going on. But yeah, it's like there's like posts like that are very cryptic that you can decode, kind of like our favorite anon post that we had. And what's going to happen is on that Telegram channel will be where well, he's already started last night on the 29th, September 29th, 2021, if you're from the future. Yeah, he's putting out the truth, in PDFs about what's been going on, and with certain people like Hillary, the Democratic National Committee, all kinds of people like that, things and people like that. So yeah, you can download all that on John McAfee's Telegram, and you'll know which one it is because it's the highest number of subscribers. It always is, because there's fake ones out there. And Juan said, all of October, the Satanists prepare their sacrifices leading up to Halloween. And they scare them all the way up to Halloween to get their adrenaline flowing for the adrenochrome and other things. I don't even like to talk about it. Yeah. And October is red for both sides. He said the book of Esther, which he did 2 long shows about with Jennifer Mack, like almost 2 years ago, maybe. He called it a book of victories and a book of reversals. And he said it was also a boomerang. Let's see. He said you can look at the book of Esther, which is the 17th book of the Bible. You can look at it in 2 parts. There was a day that Haman was hung, and it's not the way you think, by the neck, on his own petard, Pitard. So hard to talk about this stuff, but we have to talk about it. Yeah. He was hung on his own petard. It was a sharp device that went up his backside, and then he was hoisted in the air. I guess that's where the hung comes from. And then he was allowed to bleed out and screaming. So anyway, I said it. And the second part was when King Xerxes, Xerxes, signed a proclamation, when he was drunk. Well, he did this before that happened. But the part that he's talking about is when King Xerxes signed a proclamation after he sobered up, when he realized, and Queen Esther told him that she was a Jew, and so was Mordecai, and that they were under a death sentence, that, you got to look up, you got to read the book of Esther, guys. It's a big deal right now. So anyway, the king realized what he had done by signing the proclamation when he was drunk, and he was kind of manipulated into it. So anyway, he kind of amended it and he added to it. He couldn't take it away because of the law said they couldn't do it that way. So he amended it, and he said the Jews can arm themselves and make alliances. And then there was going to be one day in the future, like a chosen day, to fight. And yeah, so sorry. Cat, every time I have a cat on my lap, my eyes get itchy, but honestly, I'm not allergic. It's just a fluff. Then Juan said, I'm just going to say it in order of what he said. I mean, it's kind of jumps around a little bit, just like negative, which is a reason for that. He said, President Trump is openly calling the Biden presidency, wow, my gosh, presidency illegitimate. So he's openly saying that. And I like the way he said it, a date certain, like in quotes, will happen. It's to me, it's a preset date. So we've all been wondering when all this is going to come to a head, but like I've been thinking, it's a date that's been known to everyone. I don't think it's been a date that keeps shifting, like some people say. And he said, think about this. Well, that equals 177, which equals guilty blood image, which is what he was just talking about, showing on the John McAfee Telegram channel. That's where the truth about what's been going on is going to eventually be shown. The one where, you know, the Wiener laptop truth and things about Hillary Clinton, what she did with Huma Abedin, all that horrible stuff that we've heard about. So we'll end up on John McAfee's channel, likely on a PDF. Maybe not on a PDF. Maybe it'll just be a visual that you have to click on. Seattle disaster is 177. And it doesn't necessarily mean Seattle, but it means there's a disaster happening, like the White Hat FFs. And then one said, imagine the countdown to Purge Day. What's going to happen? And I looked up date certain because that was such a specific term to use. Date certain equals 100, which equals I am Christ. And Juan is, you know, Juan is, he and negative are the same person. And as you know, you probably know if you've listened to any of my videos, I think he's Joseph Patrick Kennedy Jr. Come back. Supposedly he died in World War II on August 12th, 1944. I won't go into that now, but sorry about the noise. So Juan says, as the shutdown happens, people will see the truth. And China thinks they have the upper hand, which honestly, I really think China is on the ropes and that we have control over everything. But Juan is saying this because certain things just have to be said that way. They really do. So China thinks it has the upper hand, and it has supported migrants going from Central America and Mexico up to the U.S., and supposedly they've emptied their prisons. I don't know. I really think they're actors on the border. I don't think they're the prisoners coming up. That's just me. So take that for what it's worth. And Christ himself, he said, when he was preaching, we're talking about Juan, when he was preaching, he said, woe unto you. And he said back then, what that meant was literally, you're effed. You know, literally. The women were the victims. I mean, they were the biggest victims, the women and the children. If things went the wrong way and people came in and took over an area, the women and the children were the first to be hurt or killed. The boys were taken, like, for instance, going to Babylon, sex slaves, prisoners, I mean, chaos in the cities. It was, you know, it was bad. So he said, when is the purge day? He said, October is the purge month. Purge day is about the reversal of fortune. I'm sorry I'm reading it word for word, but I wrote it down word for word in a lot of these notes. He said, first crack of sun over the horizon. It's going to be a free-for-all. That also made me think of the that's the first date of the History Tour event. Sometimes they say rally, but it's more like an event in Sunrise, Florida. So that makes me think of that. I'm wondering if Junior will come out then. I'm thinking he will. That's on 12/11/21. And he said, at the first crack of dawn, first results may be an arrest. Now, he said that really quietly, almost like murmuring, you know. First results may be an arrest, you know, like He's talking to David. He said, and then he said, all of Haman's sons died in the same breath. Like, they all were just gone. They were probably lined up in a row and just, they were gone. And he said, we're in a near-death experience, which you've probably heard him say before. Like when people are in a hellish death experience, not the kind where you almost die and you see heaven and it's all beautiful and all that. He said it's like when Lazarus went to Hades and he just wanted to wet his mouth with his fingers, and he wanted to tell his brothers and warn them what was possibly going to happen if they didn't shape up. So that was his near-death experience. Then Juan says, Red China, a military or a nuclear conflict on our horizon. And I'm thinking Iran and North Korea also, which comes up in a little bit. And I've thought that for a while, Kim Jong-un. I mean, they're all under President Trump's control and the White Hats Alliance, all that. So anything that you hear that sounds scary, it's not true. It's just not true. Red October is going to be gruesome, he said. And then he mentioned Cliff High. I think it's H-I-G-H. And Janine talks about him a lot. Tarot by Janine. And she said she doesn't always agree with him, but she agrees with a good amount that he says. What he does is he looks at, he samples patterns, or he calls it Juan calls it like a national conscience. He looks at algorithms, which looks at the terms people use when they're talking online, and kind of takes the pulse of the nation and sees where it's going. And what it sounds like is it's been kind of messed up by the what is it? The cancel culture. Sorry, lost that for a second. Yeah, the cancel culture has kind of made people guard the way they talk and change the way they talk. So they're not really putting their sentiments out there all the way. So it's not been quite as accurate right now for Cliff. And Juan said, the people behind the scenes are working the marketplace, basically. They're controlling what's going on. So you always see something fake with the economy or whatever. Everything's fake. And honestly, at this point, I think it's us. We're controlling everything. So the economy, the market, all the stats are manipulated by us, is my opinion, like I said. And then he said, not an honest sample. And I looked that up. It's 211. And that equals all the world is a stage. And he said, let's see. Oh, and then at the end he said, not an honest sample, all will be revealed. That one said that part. So I looked up all will be revealed. That's 290. Yeah. Sorry, I've got this at the wrong angle. Internet connection gone again. Shut down the government. All these are 290. Arlington National Cemetery is 290. And this is about President Trump. He must be killed in this manner, 290. I know that sounds weird, but I've been talking about it's going to look like he's poisoned. So he must be killed in this way, 290. And then he is the resurrection and the life is 290. So he's back, I mean, it's also talking about JFK because he was resurrected too. And then Juan said, it's just like I said in the past. It's cool that he said the same thing. It's a cry out to God, to Jesus, or to Messiah, depending on what religion. It's a cry out for help. And he said, it's a salvation thing. A salvation thing you could look up. I don't look all this stuff up. It would take an eternity. Then he said, a Messiah will be needed to pull us out of this after the purge day. Another good one is purge day to look up. Both sides fight. And more accurate, he said, it's a season. So it's definitely like more than a day. Let's see. And then when Esther, in the book of Esther, the king talks to Mordecai and he extends it for a second day. And he said it's reminiscent of the 50th Jubilee in the old days in the Jewish world. And you can't say Israel. Yeah, you can. First of all, there was an every 7th year Jubilee. And for 6 years, you had to depend on God. And the 7th year was the Jubilee at the end of the 7th year. So, I'm sorry, 6 years. Yeah, there were 6 years, and then a 7th year you depended on God. So you didn't farm, and you depended on each other, God. Then there was the 50th year Jubilee, and that was 2 years when you did that. You didn't farm. You let your land like fallow. And that's what's going on. That's why I kind of think March is going to be our big Jubilee. Because that would be 2 years since the COVID shutdown began, March. That would be 2 years ago, March 2022. And we've always been told to follow the twos. So it makes sense to me, March 2022. Anyway, he talked about the Balfour Declaration in 1917 with Lord Rothschild. And in 1967, the Six-Day War with Israel, the Jews went to Jerusalem and recaptured the land on the 50th year from the Balfour Declaration. So they had Jerusalem back. And then he said God does things by the numbers, of course, because he's part of God. He is God. So of course he does things by the numbers. We know that. Both sides work with the numbers, and there's a good side and a bad side, as with most everything. 5 in the Bible is grace, and with the occult and the Saturnists or the Satanists, that's the same thing. The Saturnalius, because they worship Saturn, and that's where Satanists get their name. Satanists use 5 for death to enemies and defense, and that's why the Pentagon has 5 sides, which you probably know. Let's see. And Juan said the most important things have not been revealed. So they think they're going to win. They're not going to, because the big things have not been revealed yet. And President Trump codes things. I mean, he codes everything, but he also says 2020 all the time. So he's talking about, yeah, I didn't lose. I won in 2020. So at the end, that's the end of Juan's part. But then I noticed all kinds of things that were in the news. I'm talking about the alternate news, a little bit from CNN, but most of it was alternate media. And there were all these headlines. It was yesterday, and they're all fake. Okay, they're all controlled. All the media is now controlled by the white hats. And like I said before, it's not going to look like it is because it's all like hyped up and all that, but it's supposed to be. At this moment in time, it's supposed to be. And they're doing what they're supposed to do. So anyway, here's a couple of, well, I'll go through a few. U.S.-China face-off looks like the Cold War. So that was yesterday. Security Council to meet Thursday on North Korea. Okay, what did I just say? North Korea is one of them. Iran at 100% alert on border. IRCG ready. That's that's their guard, their Iranian guard. Possibly attack. Well, I'm saying possibly of attack by the IRGC on Azerbaijan, which has been going back and forth, which I'm sure is fake too. And there's supposedly over 1,000 tanks, Iranian tanks, on the border with Azerbaijan. And then CNN, even CNN, warns of a system collapse. And they said in their article, seafarers, people out at sea, seafarers, truck drivers, and airline workers endured quarantine, travel restrictions, and CV requirements. So they're not working, a lot of them. And George News said there was 65 ships out at sea still, and I think they've been there a long time, with a lot of cargo on board. I mean, a ship can hold, I don't know, but it looks like at least hundreds of cargo containers, if not a couple of thousand, And they're stuck out at sea, and they've been stuck out near the port of LA and San Diego for a while. And that's partly why goods are slow coming back to the store shelves and things like that. So that's coming to a head. So that was from CNN. Then this was a tweet from U.S. European Command. So our military. They had a video, and on the video it had titles. One said, "The Bomber Task Force is back." And it looked like, the stealth bomber, the triangle-shaped stealth bomber. And it was flying around. And at the end of the video, it said, "Coming soon to a theater near you." And of course, this came from the European Command, and we're talking about theaters of war in different areas. Also means it's a movie. So that's why, the other reason it said coming to a theater near you. So it's not going to be real, all the stuff that looks like it's going on, and it'll probably get on the mainstream news, and everybody will be upset and worried, and won't be real. And Turkey, also Turkey, who I mentioned before, is near Azerbaijan airspace. So they've been kind of floating in there over their airspace, along with supposedly 1,000 tanks on the border. And then this was a big deal. I think Monkeyworks had this on, but I also saw it someplace else. It said the USAF, U.S. Air Force, coming from Fairchild, the Fairchild, which was on this kid by the side of the road, saluting his dad's coffin in the parade, memorial parade. So they came out of Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington with 18 KC-135s. KC equals King Christ, in my opinion. And 135, there's 35 for POTUS 35. And they're called KC-135 Strato tankers. So they're very big. And they all came out in a huge, so like there was 18 in a row. I saw the map of them coming out. It was in a big line, and they came out from Washington, kind of going northeast. So I'm in the northeast. I haven't seen them yet, but I'd love to see it. We have a military base not far from me in Portsmouth, so maybe we will see them. And it's a refueling base, so maybe they'll refuel them. That would be cool. Now I'm on to negative 48. I'm not sure if I should stop or not. Let's see. Let's look ahead, because I talk so much on these different things. Yeah, I'll finish it with this one. You know me. Negative 48 mentioned Joe for Joseph. I'm always talking about Joseph Patrick Kennedy Jr., who died, like I said just a few minutes ago, 8/12/44. So Joseph, he said Joe Patrick Kennedy. Oh, he said Joe and John, sorry. Negative said Joe and John were not Americans. We know that they were brought up and born in Benghazi, Libya. And I wonder why Negative said that. And I was like laughing about it, because I'm always talking about Joe. I'm always talking about him, because I think he was reborn as our Juan and Negative. And most importantly, as our junior. They're all the same person. So I think he was reborn. And of course I can be wrong, and I know a lot of you think that Negative and Juan are Patrick, who died 1963, August 63, right before, no, was it? Yeah, 63. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, because a lot of times I talk off the cuff and I get things wrong, and I don't want to continue being wrong. So let's see. And when President Trump invoked the Insurrection Act on January 6, 2021, that was 1621. And if you look at the date, you always look at numbers when you see dates, not just words. You add 1 plus 6, and that's 7, which is God's sacred number, perfect number. And reverse the 1 and the 6, right? And you get 61 for 1961 when JFK was elected. And let's see. So this is something that he said that was so exciting that I never thought about. I mean, I know that he said not long ago that JFK came back 4 days later, exactly to the minute, 4 days later, because it happened at 1:29 in Dallas on 11/22/63. But 4 days later exactly was 11/26/63, and he was reborn at 1:29. And that meant he was an American citizen. So, and that's why he could be POTUS of our new republic, because now we're under the Constitution and you do have to be born in the United States. Whereas before he was allowed to be president because he was president of a corporation. He wasn't under the Constitution. He's president of the United States Corporation, which I hadn't thought of it that way. I don't know if you guys did, but you're smarter than me if you figured that out. So I'll probably mention in the next video also this license plate. And I know I've mentioned it before, but there's so many ways of looking at the license plate on the Lincoln that he was in, on 11/22/63. It was GG 300, and it was the G equals 7. So you can look at the two G's as 7, and you can look at it as 77, of course, which I'll come up with another day. But you also can look at it as 7 plus 7, and that's 14. And then you carry down kind of, you have GG 300, and then do the 14 under the 7, and then 300, carry that down. And that's, as Decodes always says, the zeros count for nothing, or whatever. Can't remember the phrasing he uses, but they don't count. The zeros don't count. And so you have a 3, not 300. So you don't have to add the 14 and the 3, although you could. There's so many ways of looking at these numbers. So what Negative did was take the 14 from the 7 plus 7, and then the 3 from the 300, and he made it 143. So he didn't add them this moment. He did 143. That equals 4 dark days. So it was already talked about on the license plate, if you want to look at it that way, that there would be 4 dark days. So JFK, POTUS 35, was gone exactly 4 days. And that's 4 dark days that he wasn't here. And that's 96 hours. So 4 dark days is 143. Jesus is King is 143. The Punisher is 143. The President is 143. And George Patton, who was POTUS 45's dad, or President Trump's dad, 143. Christ Twin, 143. You know who I think that is. I'm Still Alive is 143. And Double Negative is 143. So that's our Negative. Who is all these other people? It's like so funny. It gets complicated. I'm sorry, the cat's Rosie's kind of creeping up here. Let's see. Now, I know you're going to think this is weird, you guys, but I'm going to throw it out there and you guys can do what you want with it. But I really do think you're going to think this is so weird. And maybe you've never heard of him. But Groucho Marx is involved in this somehow. I know he's probably alive, along with all these other stars and people like that. But I really do think he's involved somehow as one of the people that we're supposed to know about. Yeah, Groucho Marx from the Marx Brothers, M-A-R-X. I mean, it's so funny. But every time I've gotten his name in so many decodes that I know it's not a coincidence. So check him out and look at his family. I mean, his family numbers are important. His numbers are important. Things in the description of his life, the numbers match up with being important. I don't know exactly what to think about it, but anyway, this is how it was phrased when I read some things about him. He was a comedian, an actor, a writer, and he was on stage and film. He had 4 brothers. I think the brothers thing is important. Chico, Harpo, these are all nicknames. Chico, Harpo, Gummo, and Zeppo, and they were characters in his movies, most of them. He made 13 feature films, which caught my eye because there were 13 bloodline families. And he hosted a really cool show called You Bet Your Life, where you had to be really on the ball, and he was very good with impromptu jokes and things. And they played like a game show, and he talked to them throughout the show and had conversations with the contestants, and they're very funny. Let's see, I won't go into all of it, but he had a child named Miriam, M-I-R-I-A-M, and that really stuck out to me because Mary Magdalene, who we know was Jesus's wife, was also called Miriam. So don't think that's a coincidence. She was born on 5/19/27, and you can look at the 5/19 as 5 + 1 + 9. That's 15 for 3 times 5 for grace, and also comms. And then you can take the 2/7 for 1927, and 2 + 7 is 9, and 9 is the highest number, as Negative has been talking to us about. That's a big deal. And 99 is most high in gematria. So that was important, that Miriam was those numbers, born in those numbers. Even his dad, I won't go into all of it, but even his dad has important numbers, Simon Marx. So his TV show is called You Bet Your Life. That equals 199, and there's a 99 for most high in there, as I was just saying. So that's a big deal. So remember when POTUS President Trump was out saying read the transcript all the time? And that got a big Twitter trending thing, and probably on Facebook. It was all over the place. That's 199. So this matches it. So the title of Groucho Marx's game show that he hosted was You Bet Your Life, 199. God's Family Bloodline is 199. John 3:16 is 199. What does my name mean, 199? And his name is probably, his name before he changed it was Julius Henry Marx. And Julius is from Jupiter. And I remember I was talking about the Pleiadians from Jupiter, and that we're all probably, you could call all of us as aliens because we're part Pleiadian, because that's where we're from. That's who made us. So let's see. No Ordinary Family, I'm still doing You Bet Your Life, is 199. Who is the Hidden Son is 199. So, and then we have Out of the Shadows, 199, which was the documentary on trafficking that Juan is involved in. So I don't know what you think about Groucho Marx, but I've had this feeling for a long time that he's involved in all this. And I just decided I'd bring it up now. I mean, there's never a really good time to bring up these weird things, but I'd like to know what you think and what you think about the white hat FFs that I can't say and all that. So I'd like to know your opinion, and write it in the comments. And if you ever want to email me, separately, I'm Mrs. Handyru at Comcast. Remember, POTUS always calls it Concast with an N. I'm at com with an M, Comcast.net. So if you want to email me, give me a shout. I'm not sure if I'll email back to everybody, but I'd like to know what you're thinking at least. So, oh, and thank you so much for saying happy birthday to POTUS 35. Oh, that was so cool. I mean, it was just awesome. There's so many people, and they said the nicest things. You guys are so nice. And I don't get nervous. Like in the beginning when I started this, I used to get nervous. But with such nice people watching, I'm not nervous anymore. And I just want to thank you for that. It's the best feeling to know that people care and they're supportive and that they have ideas that they want to share with each other and with me. And I just love it. So thank you. And God bless you. God bless you. And we know who God is. And thank you so much. And you have a wonderful day. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.